Good evening, and welcome everybody to the public City Council meeting for Monday, March 27th, 2023. I now call the meeting to order at 6:30. Roll call, please, Ms. Clerk.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Claudia Arona.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Here.
Mayor Infante.
Here.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Rise. Face the flag. And apart, I pledge allegiance.
Okay. We have no proclamations or ceremonial items, so we are going to go to public communications. Ms. Clark, if you would...
Recording in
read-
progress.
Alexa? And we're being recorded. Zoom's working. If you would read the comments for public communications, please.
This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to address the council on items not on the agenda and on consent. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes and may speak only once. State law does not allow the council to discuss or take action on issues not on the agenda, except to briefly respond or to ask staff to follow up on such items.
Thank you. Let me go through the procedures one more time. I think there's some people in here that haven't been here before, so what we'll do is we're going to allow any of you in the public that would like to speak on, in this case, a non-agenda item or later on for agenda items. When the matter is brought up, we'll have a staff report typically. The council will then have the option to ask questions of the staff to make sure that we understand that report completely. At that point in time, the council does not make comments or say anything about what they wish to do at that point. Then we get public comment. The public comment lasts for 3 minutes, please. This is not a popularity contest. I will not accept clapping and loud noises. Don't be rude to the people that are coming up here, or I will kick you out, and we'll close this whole session. All right, at that point in time, when all the public comments have been made, then it'll come back to the council, who will then discuss it amongst themselves, and then can, if they choose, to address the comments that have been made to them. Okay, but there's no discussion back and forth during public comment. All right? So with that understanding, let's start off. I've got several people that would like to make a comment during this non-agenda item. And we'll start with Ms. Denise El Amin.
Hello, my name is Denise El Amin, and I'm a resident of Solvang. I'm coming here today to talk again about the fishing scandal that has rocked Solvang, that nobody knows about. Fishing not at the lake. This is money that was given away by the city council. 3 of you are still on this council, to the tune of $539,000. Insurance paid $250,000, but I've yet to find out how much our premiums went up. But this is money that was just passed to somebody, and nobody talks about it. Where's the transparency here? And let's move on to Robert Clark. He claims that he is a watchdog for the taxpayer dollars. And for that reason, he did not want to approve the majority of the grants requested from local organizations that total less than $50,000 annually. He hates it so much that he was willing to give a $200 donation to the school just so that the taxpayers wouldn't have to pay it. Thank you, Robert. So please explain to the residents here that the residents here that voted you out, but the council people here appointed you back in, how is it that you never once brought up the fishing incident? You never once brought up the marketing contract that was giving money away, and you're still a watchdog for the taxpayer money. So is it that you're a watchdog up to $50,000 and then you no longer want to be a watchdog? So I'm here just to say that you guys need to have more transparency. There is a lot of money going out of this council, and you guys have no transparency, and you need to get some. And you really need to start worrying about money versus other little minor things that you have a problem, you personally have a problem with. We really don't care about your personal problems up in here. You need to be an advocate for the taxpayers of Solvang, California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. El Amin. Ms. Laura Ishikawa?
Short. Mayor, City Council members, my name is Laura Ishikawa, and I'm here to ask you to reconsider the Pride banners and the Rainbow Crosswalk so that the city can show its support for Pride Month. The Rainbow House has taken a lot of your comments and considerations and made modifications to their banners and their crosswalk proposal. The Pride banners would show that Solvang stands with the members of the LGBT community and that they all belong and are welcome. The rainbow flag represents all the colors of the rainbow and are a symbol of inclusion and belonging far beyond the LGBT community. It represents us all, no matter our background, our ethnicity, our age, or orientation. Our interim city manager said past flags have included Danish Days, the Elverhøy, PCPA, the Walding, and the Fig Fondo. Not all of these were part of specifically Danish culture, but they all represent the best of Solvang and Solvang events. Let's continue to expand the banner program to include more holidays, events, and organizations that are local and show the best of who we are. Vashti had pointed out at the February meeting that Juneteenth falls in Pride Month. I hope that their organization and Juneteenth can request banners for Juneteenth as well and continue to have their celebration in Solvang Park. And I hope other organizations follow as well to promote Solvang. Veterans Day, 4th of July, continue Danish Days, Yule Fest, our library, our schools, and Rotary. This doesn't need to be an either-or decision, Danish banners or Pride banners. Inclusive practices mean and, Danish and Pride. We can embrace and promote our Danish heritage and the culture that is Solvang that we love and know, and promote Pride Month, and embrace the many other events and holidays organizations that show the best of who we are. Several past speakers and council members have stated they feel that Solvang is welcoming and that they have never felt otherwise, and I'm very happy for you. But not everyone has had this experience or feels it consistently. Some people are still hiding who they are out of fear. Some people still don't show their full selves out of fear. This isn't meant to disparage Solvang. I love living here. I've lived here for 27 years. It just means that we can strive to be better and improve to be better. We have a low crime rate, and overall we all feel safe here, but we still strive to be better. We are welcoming and we are inclusive, but we can still continue on the path to be better. So let's take this opportunity to show those who live here, those who are visiting, and those who are yet to come to visit, but don't yet know enough about Solvang, that this is a welcoming place and that we believe that everyone belongs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ishikawa. Kyle Cavalli.
I'm going to give you guys something before I get started.
Please hand that to the clerk.
Hello, Council. My name is Kyle Cavalli, and I am the president of the Rainbow House, Inc. I wanted to start off by saying the last time I was here standing before you, I came here with the impression that our application was going to be looked at and taken seriously. It was anything but that. Before I even walked up here, there was an agenda already at play from you. A narrative and a decision was made before I even began to speak. That narrative was started and sparked by a couple councilmen, one in particular, and some constituents from this town. There were emails going back and forth about wearing red, white, and blue clothing as a silent protest, emails about gathering other conservatives and rallying together and coming here to stop this gay agenda and madness. I stand here before you not only as a citizen, but as a human, a business owner, a father, a proud gay man, to say what you did at the last council meeting was completely inappropriate, unprofessional, disrespectful, and very disappointing. There are even emails about going down to West Hollywood and having a MAGA month to see how we would like it. There was emails speaking specifically about me. The banner denial. As discussed in a prior meeting, we have taken your suggestions into consideration. You will see banners, which I provided, that have been modified based on those suggestions. We are now asking that only one crosswalk be rainbow themed at Copenhagen and 2nd, which is a parade route and out of the path of the horse-drawn trolleys. Our banners were denied for 3 different reasons. Councilman Clark said in several news outlets it was denied because it is political. Where does it state in Solvang's bylaws or policies that pride flags are political? Where does it state in any Santa Barbara County guidelines that pride flags are political? Where does it state in any of the U.S. governments that pride flags are political? If in fact this is true, that pride flags are political, which they are not, we are not asking to hang pride flags. We were asking to hang banners, which is a huge difference. We were told by the mayor verbatim that the banners were denied because banners that go on street poles are strictly for Solvang city-sponsored events. This is inaccurate. That was 3 minutes?
It was, but continue for a minute if you would.
Thank you. If you read the first sentence of the bylaws, of the first paragraph and the second paragraph, it states what banners can be used for. My third point, and it'll be my last one. Councilman Brown spoke about financial gain and one business. My husband and I are the owners of Wonder Child, which is a gift, toys, and bookstore. We are a children's toy store, and we sell items of inclusion for all walks of life, and this is done through items like books, dolls, clothing, and toys. There is no limit to gender of who can buy what and who can play with what. Part of being diverse is awareness for the LGBTQIA plus community. Yes, we sell pride stuff, but it is very, very minimal. We wouldn't need a pride parade or banners to promote that. You are aware that there are several stores in downtown Solvang that sell pride items, correct? There actually is a Pride and Joy store that is not affiliated with us or owned by us. They sell only Pride-themed items. So when you talk about a business obtaining financial gain from banners and how that's not allowed, you're contradicting yourself. There are plenty of banners that go up that promote specific businesses. Case in point, there's a Jewel Fest banner right in front of the Jewel Fest Christmas store as I'm speaking right now. We resubmit our application with modifications and different options, and I stand here before you, putting you on notice in front of this community, and I suggest that you need to take a look at this and ensure the denial is not about discrimination or your own personal beliefs. This is not a political issue, and anybody trying to make it that way has their own agenda. Please take this seriously and think about the message you're putting out there. We want to create a partnership and work together and bridge the gap of what it means to be welcoming to all, again, welcoming to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
for
Cavalli.
letting me finish.
Liz Marks. I did make an exception for Mr. Cavalli, but please hold everything to 3 minutes now.
I've lived here in the Valley. My name is Liz Marks. I've lived here in the Valley for 23 years. I'm here to support the Rainbow House, Inc. Supporting what is known as a National Pride Month has brought positivity to the area. I would ask that the Solvang City Council reconsider their decision regarding the proposed application for the Pride banner and crosswalk. As stated in the banner policy guidelines, the purpose of the Streetlight Banner Program is to assist in the advertising and promotion of destinations or events that support tourism in the city of Solvang. It is my belief that this event will support tourism, as 11 cities within the California support Pride celebrations. Now Solvang is one of them, whether you like it or not. Solvang has become a destination, and for those that may disagree, our valley, including Solvang, is supported by both LGBTQ business owners and tourists. We all support and spend money in Solvang. This is not political. This is about supporting an already recognized National Pride Month. The financial gain of having this support will affect all the businesses within Solvang in a positive manner. Tourists won't stop coming because of a rainbow flag or a colored crosswalk. People will continue to come, spend money, stay in our hotels because of the diversity of the valley. That's what brought tourists to Solvang in the beginning, and what still brings tourists to our city. I'm asking the Solvang City Council to reconsider this application and come to an agreement that both parties can support. Whether or not you like it, the LGBTQ community are already here. They have lived in our valley, and they have loved it so much that they have become residents and business owners. The council should be able to move forward with respect to diversity and inclusion, and as a council, you represent the community of Solvang, as most of you are voted in. I speak on behalf of myself and an LGBTQ family member that you reconsider this, and change can be positive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Harry Mullen?
Hi, my name is Harry Mullen, and I use they, them pronouns. I'm here tonight to condemn the decision of the City of Solvang regarding the denial of the Rainbow House's initiative to put up banners and paint a series of crosswalks rainbow. I have lived in the San Ynez Valley for 18 years of my life. I left just earlier this year to go off to school. At the last board meeting, Councilman Robert Clark claimed that Solvang is the friendliest goddamn town he's ever been in. We live in different Solvangs, sir. I have endured a life of discrimination and hate on the basis of my actual and perceived identity. I was called a faggot less than a mile away from this spot. Does that sound friendly to you, Mr. Clark? Is that the community that you want to live in? Is that the community that you want the children of the city of Solvang to live in? I don't think so. The battle for gender and sexual equality is one of life and death, and I do not exaggerate. You can say that you're denying banners and crosswalks all you want, but you are showing which side of that battle you really are on. If you, the City Council of Solvang, continue to maintain your stance against the LGBTQIA+ community, all I can tell you is that you are not choosing the side of life in that battle. I implore you to take a deeper and more methodical look at all matters relating to the LGBTQIA+ community and other disenfranchised groups. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sandy Mullen?
Hi there, I got to follow my kid. Wow. Hello. My name is Sandy Mullen, and I am grateful for the opportunity to address you tonight. I would also like to ask you to reconsider your decision regarding the Rainbow House's application for banners and the Pride crosswalk. I sat in this room less than a year ago, and it was packed. and this council voted to approve Pride Month for Solvang. And the room erupted with applause and gratitude. People in the council were teary-eyed. It was a joyous moment. I'm not sure how less than a year later we're here. I'm a little confused by that. I've heard some talk about tourism and people not coming. I had the great privilege to work at a table at the Pride Festival last year, and many, many, many people came who were from out of town, who were shocked and pleasantly surprised that a place had a Pride Festival, that Solvang was doing this, and they said they were going to come back, and they bought all of our merchandise. Recently in the news, there's been a lot of talk around another event that happened in this valley, also less than a year ago, where a pride flag was taken down and burned, and adults were recorded saying, "That's where gays go." It is important. Representation does matter. I have children who are members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and we moved here, my husband and I, 26 years ago to raise our children in this loving, small, welcoming community. And it is, in large part, that. But every community has room for growth. We all learn, we all grow, and I hope that we can count on you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a request by two people to speak at the same time, which is fine. Ava Tali and Jules Bianco.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ava Tali. And my name is Jules Bianco. Thank you for letting us speak today. We are here in support of the Rainbow House. So first off, there's a flag that represents life, healing, sunlight, nature, serenity, and spirit that has commonly been politicized despite its inclusive representation and meaning. This is the LGBT flag. At one point in time, a similar flag was deemed controversial by those who were not willing to understand it. Those who fought for this flag and continued to do so till this day fought for the United States and its people to be free. The American flag represents this fight and freedom. The colors on the flag represent valor and bravery for red, and for white, purity and innocence.
Throughout history, symbolism has been used to communicate a wide variety of messages, whether it's the hate-driven swastika or this country's symbol of freedom. Symbolism equals representation. To minimize the meaning behind something like your flag or ours would be to discount the efforts that have been made. Please enlighten me on how this threatens the history of this town or the tourism it gets because at the end of the day, it's not about the scapegoats used to discredit this symbol and this community, those of which take up a huge chunk of this country and Solvang.
It's about fear of change, fear of backlash, fear of challenging the status quo. The only thing we want to do is coexist. All we are asking for is an equal spot at your table. Right now, other members of the LGBT community are being threatened by numerous anti-LGBT bills that may cause lives to be lost, despite the outcome.
Whether this matters to you or not, it's still something that holds weight in meaning. If you truly care about your gay friends, stand up for them. Don't be afraid to be called a bigot. You have power, you have the opportunity to change the community, and it's your decision on what side of history you're on. Do you want to be on the side of progress or the side of comfortability?
We don't want to insult you. In fact, we hold respect for you and all that you do. Speaking from the people's point of view, we all deserve to be seen. No matter what race, gender, sexuality, upbringing, financial status, etc., we are all included in this flag. And as self-proclaimed queers, we spend a lot of money, and
We'll be spending a lot of money in June.
depending on your decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting us
Thank
talk.
you very much. I believe the name is Tom Trowell? I'm sorry, I'm having a difficult time reading your writing.
Hello, my name is Tony. I'm the owner of Tony's Smoke Shop.
As close as I could get, thank you.
Do I start?
Please.
I have been to the planning division, and I'm here to ask council to provide direction to staff to revisit permitted use in the TRC and the tobacco control section of the code. Currently, hookah lounge is permitted in the M Light Industrial Zone. It is not mentioned in the TRC. I would like it added as a use which would allow me to do my smoke lounge. My preference is to do an enclosed space because it allows me to control the smoke. I ask that you provide direction to staff to revisit the definition of major tobacco retailer. The definition of major significant tobacco retailer is that 75% or more of gross sales receipts are from the sale of tobacco products or tobacco-related products, to bring it down to 25%. Concerns that you might have, like other retailers that sell tobacco, like Copenhagen Liquor or Solvang Market and Deli. Well, Copenhagen Liquor, they wouldn't meet the 25% threshold, and they wouldn't have the space for a smoke lounge. And the Market and Deli also wouldn't meet the 25% threshold because they sell other products like water, souvenirs, chips. They just wouldn't do it. I didn't mention the VIP shop since they're not exactly inside of Solvang, and they don't really have a space outside to do that either. We've only had one smoke shop at a time in Solvang, even before the smoking ban, and 2 of them are already closed down, so it wouldn't really be smart for anyone else to open a smoke lounge if one is already established in Solvang. And I already got permission from all my from all my neighbor business partners, or not business partners, from every neighbor around me that owns a business. They already gave me the permission to open one, if you guys allow me to. What this could solve in Solvang, or what could help, it would give the locals a place to smoke, like hotels that have restrictions for smoking, or the people who live in apartments or houses that are in close proximity to each other, so they wouldn't bother their neighbors. It would give the tourists and the locals a place to smoke instead of the parking lot, which isn't appealing, especially for a cigar or a hookah smoker. In general, for everyone's health and safety, it could be. It would reduce the amount of tourists smoking while walking and bothering others that are passing by. It would give tourists a small incentive to come back more often to Solvang, knowing there's a place they can sit down and enjoy what they love. My patio is currently empty, and this kind of would fill it in. Yeah. Someone you can work with regarding any issues or concerns that you have, or any problems that will happen. Can I?
Wrap it up quickly, please.
I will fix them. I know if the people of Solvang aren't happy, I won't be happy. I also know that you can't comment on these 3 minutes that I have. I spoke 4 minutes. I would like to see this on a future agenda for further discussion, and I'll close this with one of my favorite quotes: "Old enough to know better, but young enough to do it anyway." Oh.
I like that one. Thank you. Sorry for the mispronunciation of your name. And another one I'm going to mispronounce probably. Vera Seek. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you actually did.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vera Seek. I'm a senior at San Ynez Valley High School. I am president of the GSA. I'm here to speak on behalf of the GSA on the decision to not approve Rainbow House Incorporated's request for banners and pride sidewalks. I did not prepare anything to say because I wanted to speak from the heart, and so many people have already said exactly what I was feeling, but I would like to add my experience growing up here. I self-identify as queer, and I think that visible displays of support can be so important, especially in young people's lives. I know that we at the high school, we're part of a organization called No Place for Hate, and part of that organization is we organize events that promote inclusion and support of minorities and super anti-bullying. We just got approved to have rainbow speed bumps at the high school, and that has been a huge victory for us because to see such visible support is something so special, especially to me. Because when you are not adequately represented, it can feel isolating. It can feel like you are something that should not be. And to be told that you can be, and to be shown that you can be in such a beautiful way with all the colors of the rainbow is so special. And I would like you to rethink the rejection, or work with the Rainbow House on other ways you can outwardly show your support. In order to champion change, it's important to be at the forefront and to be deliberate with your messaging. So I would ask you to consider my words. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Megan Dietenhofer.
Good evening, City Council. I'm here to speak as a property owner this evening in Solvang, in support of the proposal for the Pride banners and crosswalks. I'm very supportive, as you may know, of keeping all the Danish traditions in Solvang alive. My family came here in 1911, had a general store where the Solvang restaurant is until it burned down. Now we rent the Solvang restaurant to that business, so we have on Copenhagen a business, my sisters and I, among other properties in Solvang. And you'll see me in Danish days out in my costume, very, very into all the traditions. But I don't believe that means we have to remain stagnant, especially if change is in favor of kindness and inclusivity. And a few people have spoken tonight about the importance to them of inclusivity. I am straight, so I have not had the experience that others have of bigotry aimed at me. But to say it doesn't exist would be like telling a black person there's not racism because I'm white and I haven't experienced that. But I can listen to my friends who have and have empathy for them and hear their plea for inclusion. And I can also speak to owning a business that has a pride flag up currently in Los Olivos last year after the pride flag burning that was referenced earlier. Many businesses, including Figueroa Mountain Brewing Company, my family's business in Los Olivos, chose to fly a pride flag in support of the LGBTQ+ community. And we've had overwhelmingly positive response to it. People have literally been crying, sitting under it, saying, I never thought I would see so many pride flags. It makes me feel so welcome. And I think we actually get more business. Tourists that visit feel comfortable coming in. So I think not only is it the decent thing to do to support this proposal, but also good for business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amy Koo. Said that wrong, didn't I?
My handwriting probably didn't help. It's Amy Rio.
Oh, that's an R. Oh. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Amy Rio. Thanks for letting me speak. I didn't actually come thinking I was going to say anything. I just was going to come and listen. And then I decided, no better time than the present. And I recently moved here with my family, and we're a family of six consumers, and new to the area about a year. And I just found out about the crosswalk being denied, and I'm from the Midwest originally and lived in the Pacific Northwest for years. And Pacific Northwest, you'd often see rainbow crosswalks and flags, and it was no big deal. And then to move here and be like, whoa, this isn't happening here. I was really surprised, and I felt like I needed to speak, that I wanted to say something on behalf of our friends and community, especially the marginalized community, to say, hey, I would like to see a crosswalk. I don't think that's a big deal. And it got me thinking. I was like, man, if this was a veterans crosswalk, would we be doing this? If this was something to represent the disabled and senior community, would there be as big of a conflict? And I can't imagine that there would be. And then that made me think, like, why is this a big deal? This is just a crosswalk to support people in our community and to say, hey, we see you and welcome. So anyways, I'm in favor of a crosswalk. And like I said, family of 6, and we'll show up and shop. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that hasn't turned in a slip that would like to speak? Do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay, please, who's first then?
Yes. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Or who are you calling on? Who are you calling on? Because there's 3
Vashti,
different
go
people with
ahead.
their
That's
hands
fine.
raised. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Let me put my video on. Okay. Hello. So there's 2 issues I want to speak upon. The first is going to be fiscal responsibility for the city. To start, my name is Vashti Wilson. I am a resident here. I own a business here along with my daughter, and I am also the chair for your Solvang Tourism Advisory Committee. I come in the capacity today of a private resident. I verified that regarding the marketing contract, $129,000 was paid as a lump sum payment to the Abbey agency whose contract was recently canceled. Those invoices were not verified. On January 31st, they were approved by the marketing manager in non-compliance with the official contract. On February 13th, you guys received updated invoices. Those invoices were confirmed by the marketing manager to not have been vetted or verified, and yet that marketing manager issued approval for payment of $129,000 in invoices. This totals $179,000 paid to this agency for 6 months worth of work, which were not verified. On top of that, this comes after the phishing scandal of over $500,000. So I'd like to know what is being put in place, because the official statement was that measures were put in place so that this wouldn't happen again last year. And if that were the case, then an employee should not have been able to approve over $100,000 worth of invoices without secondary official approval. Secondly, I like to point out that we never received the $82,000 refund we were supposed to receive from IDK for the previous marketing contract. And on top of that, $70,000. On top of that, we issued another payment of $82,000 that needs to be rectified. The second issue I'd like to address is the pride issue. And I come to this strictly in an issue from a perception of fairness. So Danish culture, to be sure, if we're going to put it on Danish culture in which this can be approved, and I'm specifically talking about the banner or flags, it says that it either has to show Danish culture or tourism, increased tourism. Denmark is the pioneer in LGBTQ rights, and they also hold numerous celebrations every year specifically for Pride. As City Council, you guys are supposed to act in a way that is nonpartisan, objective, and equitable, and you have representation for all. Specifically, your Code of Ethics, which you adopted on November 12th, 2002, has a couple of statements in there. One being that your behavior is supposed to be above reproach. So are your decisions. I want to say that I was appalled at the City Council meeting in which certain members brought in religion, brought in politics. That should have never been done, especially when it came to the decision. For those reasons, I think the recourse would be to throw out their votes, because their votes were heavily influenced, as they stated, by their religion, by their personal experience, by their politics, which should not have come into play when they were rendering their votes. Secondly, I want to say that if this was based upon tourism and increasing tourism, I would have thought that this issue would have been thrown back to the Tourism Advisory Council so that we could discuss it and see if this was indeed something that would bring increased tourism to the area. I hope that moving forward, that we represent all of our constituents, that we act in a way that is fair and just, that no one should be able to know what your politics, religion, et cetera, are while you are sitting on that council as a public representative. And I hope that all people feel that they are welcome in Solvang. Last thing is, I know last time I said that we felt welcome here, my daughter and I, and that statement was used to piggyback on by 3 white men on the panel about how welcoming Solvang is. Let me say this. It is welcoming, and we have been embraced and loved and supported exponentially. But we have also endured racism, which I don't bring up because I choose to move past it. So let this be said. Just because I don't speak of all experiences does not mean that I have not dealt with racism and other prejudices in the Valley. And I would hope that you would listen to those that speak of experiences that hopefully you will never have. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Who do we have next, please?
I'll go ahead.
Okay, please.
Hi. My name is Elisa Bondurant, and I'm a resident of Solvang. I ask that you reconsider the approval of the installation of streetlight banners and temporary modification to crosswalks. During the council meeting on February 27th, of which I sat in on, some opponents of the proposal mentioned that the city of Solvang has a heritage and a culture to maintain. They conjectured that as a Danish American community, the city of Solvang has a unique and differentiating brand to uphold. And finally, that the proposal for banners and crosswalk are is a campaign that is not consistent with that brand. So if staying true to our brand is the aim, then allow me to educate you on the values and principles by which Danish people live. LGBTQ rights in Denmark rank among the highest in the world. Denmark's capital, Copenhagen, is an LGBTQ hotspot in Europe thanks to its liberal attitude and overall acceptance of the community. Denmark was the first country in the world to recognize the civil status of same-sex partners. Openly gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender soldiers serve without hindrance in all branches of the Danish defense. Copenhagen Pride is an annual pride event held in August in Copenhagen, attended by 20,000 visitors. It is Denmark's largest annual human rights festival. And the National Gallery of Denmark hosts special art exhibitions and collections during the entire week. And the staircase at the Clarion Hotel at Copenhagen Airport is painted in rainbow colors in celebration of LGBTQ Pride Month. Pride is both a communal celebration of visibility and allyship and a personal celebration of self-worth and dignity. This Pride Month, we recognize the valuable contributions of the LGBTQIA plus community across the world. I'm a mother of a child in the LGBTQIA plus community, and I ask that with these banners and crosswalk art, we reaffirm our commitment to standing in solidarity with the LGBTQIA plus community in the ongoing struggle against discrimination and injustice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we have one more on Zoom.
Yes, hello, good evening. My name is Kristen Flickinger. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the executive director of Pacific Pride Foundation, which is the largest LGBTQ plus organization in the region. I have been doing work in the LGBTQ plus community for more than 25 years, and PPF has been serving the LGBTQ plus community in our region for nearly 50 years now. I'm commenting tonight on the issue considered at last month's meeting regarding Pride Month activities, including the flying of rainbow banners and the painting of crosswalks. I want to reiterate that symbols are important. Rainbow imagery is a symbol of pride, yes, but it's also a symbol of safety. It's really important. If you haven't experienced the feeling of joy and safety when you see a rainbow flag in a new city or a business, I implore you to listen to the members of the LGBTQ plus community who are telling you what these images mean to them. It is no exaggeration to say that how a city or a business displays rainbow imagery determines where many of us spend our time, because in a world where our community is experiencing violence on a daily basis, I am not exaggerating, on a daily basis, visibly safe and welcoming spaces are an oasis. And this is why it is so important for the city to display rainbow imagery. A city represents the values of its people. I know that you know this and you care about this deeply. Displaying rainbow flags signals that Solvang is not a place where people can tear down flags or burn flags. That Solvang is a place where all people can experience joy and safety. Deciding not to do these things signals something very, very different. If joy and safety aren't enough, there are indeed business and tourism reasons to support the flags. I'm happy to talk with you about the tourism bureaus that have flown me around the world to write about travel destinations that are friendly to LGBTQ plus people. Finally, I want to offer myself and my organization's resources. Whether you would like to talk through the history and significance of the pride flag, or to offer trainings to council or the community at large or staff about LGBTQ plus people in history, or whether you'd like assistance creating a web page or other communication regarding the city displaying the pride flag, we are here as your partner to ensure safety for LGBTQ plus people in our region, which I truly believe is important to you as well. So with all of that, I ask you to reconsider and support the request to display a rainbow crosswalk and banners in Solvang during Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak on the general consent items, non-consent items? Okay, in that case, well, I'd like to go to item number 2, which is the city manager's report, please.
I'm just going to make a quick report and just let the public know that state water allocations are up to 75% for this year. So that's really good for the city of Solvang and be able to have our water inventory for the year. So that's very good.
That's really good news,
That's
yes.
fantastic. That means we get more water.
Yes.
We don't
Yes.
have to spend
That
extra
you've been
money
paying for.
to,
Yep.
to get more. Great.
And then just to go over next meeting, you have several proclamations. I'm not going to list those. You'll have a project list for your SB1 funding, which is a transportation funding, and we're going to be looking forward to adopting the local hazard mitigation plan, which was done with a joint effort with Santa Barbara County. So that ends my report.
Thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, city council comments and requests.
Actually, I have a question on the manager's report. Quick question, Brad. So this is the second increase from state water since January, is that right?
Yeah, I think the preliminary one was, yeah.
Exactly, 35 to 75. Do we think there's another one coming, or?
I'll let Jose take
So,
that.
do you have a crystal ball?
Well, that took into account the snowpack. We got another storm coming this week, which could add more snowpack. It probably won't be a significant increase if there is any further increase from that 75%.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Arona, you had a comment?
Yes, I have a couple of comments. I would like to bring back what we are doing in terms of tourism. I watched the last TAC meeting, and it seems like we don't have a plan of what's going on, but we do have about 31 applicants for either marketing managing or marketing consulting in some point. I don't know how we can select somebody when we don't have a clear direction on what we're doing. I understand the urgency of doing something because tourism is the lifeline of our community. That's how we fund 50% of what it is that we do. But I don't want us to rush and hire somebody and spend more money on something that it's not efficient if we don't know what's going on. So I don't know if that's going to take a joint study session with the TAC committee or what it is that it's going to take, but I'd like to bring back so that we can talk about what we're going to do moving forward.
Are you done? Because I'm going to jump on top of that, too.
We all are.
No, go
I
right
have
ahead.
comments as well.
I mean, I don't understand why it's not in the report and it's not on our agenda until the end of April, which does not line up with the urgency of the situation and the unresolved items with regard to who's hosting the website, where we are on the Facebook page transition. They multiple times that we requested an audit on these invoices, and we have spent a lot of money. We need to see and receive this data urgently before we proceed on the hiring. And we need to get more help on the hiring process. So I genuinely am baffled why this doesn't come back to the council yet.
Mr. Clark, I think you wanted to say something?
I would say, to add to that, the city of Solvang right now has no ad agency, has no marketing manager, and we have a TAC. I think that we should do a complete reset, suspend the TAC indefinitely until we can figure out what the heck we're doing here. We have a new city manager coming in. I'd like to get him involved or she involved in this. And just kind of wipe the slate clean. We've made a lot of mistakes over tourism and marketing over the last 7 years, and I would like to see a complete reset of this. I think we really need to hire professionals that are going to be advising us, even from an advisory committee, whether it be, 2 for hotelers, 2 restaurant owners, 2 business people, et cetera. I just think we should put everything, the TAC, the marketing agency, the marketing manager, except for social media. I think we should keep the social media up and alive and well until we can figure out in a few months where we're going with this. So those are my comments on the tourism to to step on. I do have to respond, and I promised I wasn't going to, but
Gently.
trust me. I did an interview on Ed Hat, not Ed Hat. I did an interview with KEYT, and she actually came to my office and said, "Do you regret anything you said in the February 27th meeting?" I said, "Yes, I regret using the Lord's name in vain." And that was it. And I've since apologized to staff and to everybody here at the last meeting. But it's really interesting that last year when I voted to approve the parade and the festival, I received a lot of concerned emails from the right, if you want to call it that were concerned about this. This is not our brand. This is, what are we doing here, et cetera. And so I took some heat for that. This year, because of what I said and my vote against having banners for an entire month, and this is the whole thing, it's an entire month of banners, an entire month of street painting, I don't think it's right for Solvang. You can disagree with me if you want to, but then there's an article in a Santa Barbara publication that says, the headline was, "Solvang votes for bigotry." This is the difference between the people that agreed with me and the people that don't agree with me about my comments, is that some are respectful, and one gentleman talks about me and sexualizing women, men's and women's clothing, straight white conservative morons get elected, you spew your hate. Solvang needs to get rid of you morons. Tell Peter Hawes hi the next time you're sitting with him. I'm like, where does this stuff come from? All I'm saying is I don't think Solvang needs banners for a month and crosswalks. So, and I have to make another comment. The flag that we give the Pledge of Allegiance to, folks, is I'm so blessed to stand beneath this flag. And it gives us, the people that fought for this flag and died for this flag, the right to get up here and have they, them, and she, he, and whatever pronouns, and to spew whatever you want to spew, because this is a wonderful, wonderful country. And when I see citizens sitting in this room that can't stand up at least to salute this flag and put their hand over their heart for this flag, really, really makes me sad. So, and then last week I donated to a group, an LGBT group, and they sent me a thank you note, and then I Googled them, and I realized that they're an actually an LGBT group, but I went on Wikipedia, and it says they're an anti-LGBT alphabet mafia hate group. And it's gays against groomers. And that's something I have a problem with, is grooming children for this stuff. But even this gay group is called anti-LGBT. So it just, this whole thing has gotten out of control. Yes, I'm conservative. Yes, I approved the parade last year. I went to the parade last year. I'm happy with it. I think it's a great celebration. But because we don't want banners for an entire month, we don't want sidewalks painted for an entire month, that means we're not woke. It started with tolerance, then it went to acceptance, and then it went to participation, and then it went to celebration. And if you don't do all those things, then you're not woke and you need to be canceled. And there's a lot of people in this town, and I'm a representative. I'm not a social engineer. I'm a representative, and there's a lot of people in this town that feel like I do. So those are my comments.
Do you have any? I do. Please, pull the microphone to you, yeah.
Yeah. I would like to have the TCA in our marketing program set up for the next agenda, or the next meeting, if that's doable, and have that discussion.
What I'm getting is a discussion item on the TAC and the hiring of the marketing manager? Is that?
We should hear from the TAC, too.
Well, wait,
I
wait,
don't
wait.
know why they haven't come forward yet.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I think it needs to be aired and put out there so we can discuss it.
A joint meeting. A joint meeting?
joint
let's
meeting
put the agenda, no, first off, before we have any joint meetings, I'd like to put it on the agenda for the next city council meeting, that we discuss the suspension of the TAC until we have a plan. Now,
We shouldn't suspend the TAC. We clearly need expertise that we don't have on staff.
okay, and that's part of the discussion, is how do we get that expertise? And I'm afraid that we're getting too much conflict in the TAC to get a good, specific idea
Sometimes
out of it.
conflict can be good if we extract what the tension is trying to solve. That's-
Okay.
And that's why we need to discuss it.
Yeah.
And we need to discuss that, yes. And that's all I'm saying, and that's what I think Mr. Brown is saying, is let's put it on the agenda. Let's have a discussion about what we want to do with the TAC, what we want to do in an approach with marketing, because we've got all kinds of RFPs in, or proposals in for marketing and things of that nature. But we made a mistake in the past. We hired a ad agency or a marketing agency before we got a marketing manager. And these things just didn't happen in the right order. We need to establish a plan that puts everything together properly before we start spending a lot of money again. And to answer a couple of the questions, we now, city, has rights to the Facebook page. We have rights, if I'm not mistaken, to the Solvang USA page as well, don't we, Mr. Attorney?
I have all the files from that. I have as yet been unable to get it to work in some test bed space on it, but I'm continuing to work on that. But we do have control of the Facebook page.
Okay. So,
So here, sorry, but we just got confirmation we're not operating correctly.
from who?
Well, of course, we acknowledge there's two transitions, one from the Abbey agency and one from our marketing manager, I assume to you, Brad, to the city manager, or to you, Dave. But it's unclear how we're operating right now.
And I would suggest at this point that the council put it on for discussion at the next meeting rather than engaging in more substantive discussion about this. We can provide additional updates as council requests, and perhaps we'll have additional information by that point. But it's not on the agenda tonight.
Right.
We can put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Great. Can we also add, how do we credentialize the process of making these decisions if we don't have the expertise, including credentializing, making the decision whether the TAC, what is the future of the TAC?
That would be part of the meeting.
The TAC the TAC genuinely is there to bring expertise that we don't have. So I don't know why we would, it feels like we're cutting both legs off. So I genuinely don't understand what the thinking would be on that.
We'll discuss it.
Then what I would suggest for the council is that you give direction to staff to place on for the next agenda a discussion of the current marketing situation and a discussion of the TAC in general. Make it very broad, allow you to have the full discretion as to what you want to discuss at that point, rather than constraining the council to one issue or another.
Yeah.
It's clear for me, listening to all five of you, that you want to discuss these issues, but they have to be on an agenda where that agenda
So it's gonna be
describes that.
public. Okay.
Unanimous.
All right?
Yep.
I'll do that. I mean, just, there is a TAC meeting between then.
Yes.
Now and then.
That's
Yes.
fine.
There is a TAC meeting that had some.
It's coming up Thursday, I believe, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'll be
that
there.
will still happen, so.
Oh, sure, I understand. Thank you. I wanted to make one other comment, too. There was a lot of comments just made about the flags and the crosswalks. We can discuss flags and policies all you want. The crosswalks became a real issue when all of the really professional horse people told me that that's a really bad idea. We have parades with horses in them. We have the honen pulled by horses. We have all kinds of things, including, what's his name, Monty Roberts from the Flag Is Up Farms contacted me and said, this is terrible for horses
Hang on.
because they don't see colors the way we do. And they could infer that a color means a hole or something that they wouldn't go into or would try and jump over or something else. So the sidewalk issue is really a safety issue. It had nothing to do with anything else. And I would fight that even on a single sidewalk that Mr. Cavalli had recommended that we change it to. I just don't think with all the horses that we have going on around here, if it's the Vaqueros ride or if it's the parades, this is a bad idea from a safety point of view. It has nothing to do with your culture. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Last comments?
Yes, I would like to request that we look at the request for permission for a smoking lounge in downtown Solvang.
I have zero problem with that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd be happy to talk about it.
So we'll put that on the agenda for the next period, next meeting?
Please.
Okay, can we have the staff give us an idea?
Consensus, there's a consensus to bring back the.
Sure.
And it would be a discussion of what would be needed, because it's going to be zoning, would have to go to the planning
It's gonna be
commission.
zoning,
I understand
planning.
it's gonna
There's-
be a
There's a lot of
process.
steps
Yes.
to do it.
Yeah.
In April of 2026. We'll get right on that.
It would,
I'll be in New York.
You'll be gone.
Brad, that would include our current ordinances as to non-smoking and.
Yeah, we'll tell you kind of what he talked
Please-
about.
please.
There's certain issues that would need to be modified for this to happen, and those are the things we'll bring up. Yeah.
I want to know how the governor of California, back when Governor Schwarzenegger had a smoking lounge at the state capitol.
It was a tent.
It was a
It was
tent?
a
Okay.
tent.
Yeah.
All
There's
right.
always a way around everything.
In that case, let's move to item 4, please. Ms. Clerk, if you would present that to us.
Consent items. Now we'll move on to consents designed for routine administrative city matters and is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on request of council members. Members of the public were afforded an opportunity to speak on consent items during the public communications portion of this agenda.
All right, excuse me. I did have requests to speak on 3 of these consent items. So if we can just allow that, please, and then we'll make a decision about what to vote on the consent items. So Ms. El Amin, if you would like to address item 4B.
Hello. 4B, my complaint about that is that I am being told that from now on, you no longer will put down what a resident said when they spoke against or for something. You are stating, Mayor Mark Ifani, that this is being recorded, and if you want to know verbatim what a person said, that you need to look at the entire tape, which is sometimes 4 hours. I feel that that shouldn't be your person. You guys have a lot of personal views up here, 5 different, and each one of you are very passionate about your personal biases. And we're never going to get anywhere if we have to go by each one of your personal issues. So your issue is that you don't like when someone talks that they say verbatim or just surmise what they've said. Now you only want to put the name. And I'm sure pretty soon you'll scratch that out and you'll just put female or male or whatever, binary or whatever. So my thing is that on these approved agendas, I think that they shouldn't be approved without, because you hadn't changed the the rules when these were done. So the ones that weren't done, that were done before you made your motion or whatever you did, your order to change it should be written with the person's name and whatever they talked about on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Ms. El Amin, might as well stay up there. Item 4D.
4D. Oh, this is my favorite one. 4D is about the street drainage. It appears that we had, I'm going to say between about 9 companies to bid on this work. And the company who received the contract was the lowest bidder. And now on this agenda, the company, it appears that he did 9 less things that the proposal said. But he charged us $414,000 worth of additional work items that were not on his original bid. So he was the lowest bid. He got the contract. But he ended up being the highest bidder, and he did half the work. And I guess for some reason in Solvang, we take the position of it's easier to pay than to fight. And I don't know why. You know, I'm a fighter. But we're paying these people. We've already lost $500,000. We've already given an ad agency $180,000. And now we've given a contractor $400,000 extra, and we've taken half the work. So on the budget, it appears that they came under budget, but that's just fancy paperwork. They came under budget because they did 10 things less. So they were actually 400,000 over budget. So this is more transparency is really needed here at Solvang. This is more money, and I can tell you how you guys fix it. You vote in Measure U, and us taxpayer and people who come in so welcoming to Solvang will have to pay for you guys' mistakes. And it's time for you guys' mistakes to stop happening. You need to agree on it and stop spending our money. Well, you're not even spending it. You're just giving it away. Thank you.
Item 4E then.
All right, which one is E? Okay. 4E, my problem is, of course, the Measure U, and that's the tax that we voted in, I guess to pay for all of your mistakes. You guys are going to be getting together to get an oversight committee. Oversight is basically nothing. If you have an attorney here, he will tell you that the oversight committee only has to meet once a year. And the reason why they only have to meet once a year is because they have no rights, no nothing. All they can do is it's oversight. All they can do is look, they can't talk, they can't change. Oversight means basically rubber stamp. And if you ever see a bond, and if it says an oversight committee, that is nothing. If you want it to be really looked over, then you need to see overseer or oversee. But oversight means nothing. So when you guys are putting together to get this oversight for our money that's coming in, which I'm sure you'll fish it out, this is really, it's laughable. Oversight is just rubber stamping. So I would appreciate if you guys would come together and stop calling it oversight and just change it to rubber stamp or actually just rubber stamp, because oversight, if you look it up in a dictionary, it doesn't give you any control over anything. It's just a joke. Any more? Thank
That's
you.
all you submitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, in that case, I'll bring it back to the council for consent items. Is there anything you would like to pull out of these consent items?
No.
No? In that case, can I have a motion to approve the consent items?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items as written.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Claudia Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. The next item, please, Ms. Clerk. I believe we're going to get the drought policy, right?
What drought?
No, nope, you actually have a public hearing.
We've got, oh, this is the pedicycle. I apologize, I got ahead of myself. Stop Sophie in her
I
tracks.
do now, yeah. Sorry, I try not to be so dramatic. Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight to talk with you about the requirements in the municipal code regarding pedicycle rental businesses. Currently, our code requires that anyone who operates a pedicycle rental business obtain a major conditional use permit. Major conditional use permits are required for amusement enterprises operating wholly outdoors in the tourist-related commercial area, which is our downtown village area, and in the C2 retail commercial district, which is Alamo, Pintado, and 246. The purpose of tonight's ordinance is to streamline the process and alleviate burdens for staff and for business owners. Because as I mentioned, currently the code requires both a major conditional use permit and a permit, or it's also called a pedicycle permit. And what we would like to do is amend the code, particularly section 474, which is specific to the pedicycle permits, that would require pedicycle rental businesses to either get a major conditional use permit or get a pedicycle rental certificate, assuming that their major conditional use permit does not have the insurance requirements outlined in the pedicycle permit section of the code. Sorry, I've been really struggling all
That's
day with
easy
how to
for you
define.
to say.
Yeah. So again, right now we currently require both to happen, and we want to move procedurally to where we only require the major conditional use permit that includes the stipulations from the pedicycle permit section of the code regarding insurance. Okay. Great. Okay, good. Okay, great. Sorry. And I think that's really it, actually. Really, the purpose is to make this process less burdensome for us and for the owners. It's something that we've talked about with the lawyers. They want to keep the pedicycle permit section of the code in there in case the permitted uses in the different sections of the code were to be removed, and then a major conditional use permit would no longer be required. At least we have that mechanism for checking insurance. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Okay, like the horse trolley and the pedicabs, they are fixtures in Solvang. So what that we're bringing up to the council today is different than what Mr. McInerney has done over the past 15, 20 years or whatever, however long he's been in here.
So,
Sorry, Brian. What is different?
So he currently has a conditional use permit and annually has to get the pedicycle permit. So
Okay.
what we are wanting to have happen is ultimately we're going to be amending his major conditional use permit because he wants things changed. But this is something that we want to change to alleviate his burden and ours.
Okay, to make it easier on the business owner and on us.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I like this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I thought you would. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Would you define for me a pedicycle? I know what a bicycle is, I know what a unicycle is.
What is a woman?
The Surrey?
Yes, the Surrey cycles,
Surrey.
yes.
Thank you.
Aren't all cycles pedicycles? They're not palm cycles. I guess they can be. Okay.
Any other questions of the staff?
No.
Okay, in that case, do we have any public comment? I have no slips on that. Does anybody in the audience want to say anything? I don't think there's anybody left on Zoom, is there? No. Okay.
They're all at my house.
In that case, we'll bring it back to the council. Comments?
Yeah, so just further questions. So what will the process look like for them now?
So what'll happen moving forward is that we'll require, if there were to be a new pedicycle business that came in, that they would have to go through the process to get a major conditional use permit that would require going before the planning commission and receiving conditions of approval. That would include the insurance requirement currently outlined in the code.
Okay, and for somebody that already has a business in place, what does?
We're planning on amending, there's a few items that he'd like changed, so we're planning on using that opportunity to amend his conditional use permit to also take out the requirement for the annual permit. And he'll have to, the new condition will indicate that he'll have to provide insurance annually to us, but it's no longer a separate process such as the permit. So he wouldn't have to pay the $53 every year. He'd still have to bring in his insurance.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the $1 million liability, is that adequate? Should that be changed in any way?
Dave just shook his head yes.
He's nodding his head.
That's kind of the standard that we have been requiring of pretty much every contract. I think the ones that we have maybe higher limits are for the transit contracts and maybe some major public works. But $1 million, $2 million, the $1 million, $2 million is fairly typical for this type of liability coverage.
Thank you. And then the fees that are included here, are they changed at all, or are they the same? And are they adequate? Or are they at market?
So the city went through a new fee schedule right when I started in 2021, and I believe we went through a big study to ensure that it was now market. Oh, sorry, I had one more thing to add to your comment, which is Mr. McInerney. Sorry. He will have to go before the Planning Commission for the amendments to his conditional use permit. It's not something we do in-house.
Okay.
Okay, no more comments. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Claudia Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is 6A. This is the water drought policy that I was starting to talk about too soon. Staff report, please.
Getting too excited. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public. My name is Jose Acosta. I am your utilities director here at the City of Solvang. This evening, I will be bringing back discussion and possible action to receive for the drought policy as stated in the city code. I'll give you some background on how we arrived to this and some information on recommendations from the ad hoc committee and staff and the various meetings that we had as well. Back in July 11, 2022, the City Council adopted an ordinance and then the resolution on October 24, 2022, placing us into stage 2 of our current drought policy on City Code. That was based off an executive order from the California governor. The executive order was N7-22, which required cities to try to achieve a goal of reduction by 20%. Attached to this staff report is a copy of that resolution and that ordinance when we went into stage 2. When we went into stage 2 currently has penalties that are in place for overusers and based off of this tiered structure that we currently have there. Back then, we had approximately, in the single-family residential tier, we had about 45% of those consumers who were penalized at that time. Multifamily were about 61%, commercial industrial were about 58%, and landscape irrigation, there was about 76% of users that were assessed a penalty. At that time, the community came in, voiced their concerns, and the council heard those concerns, and they also voiced their concerns about the penalty structure. That was on October 24th, 2022. At that time, the council at that time decided to put a moratorium on those penalties until the end of 2022. They directed staff to take this policy back, come back with recommendations on addressing the penalty structure within that ordinance. Staff came back to the January 9, 2023 meeting, presented their recommendations, presented some modifications. Also, members of the public came in, voiced their concerns, and asked for council considerations as well. At that meeting, council gave direction to staff to form an ad hoc committee with Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona on that committee and Councilmember Dave Brown serving on that committee to collaborate with the city manager and the utility director to come back today to bring their final recommendations and considerations for council. Some of the recommendations from council were to do some language modifications to the policy. Staff has presented with we've been presented with some changes. Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona and I sat down and she provided a lengthy list of language changes and Councilmember Brown as well. So we're looking at removal of the monetary penalties within stage 2. Those are not required to be in there, and based off of the feedback from the community and discussion amongst the ad hoc committee, we felt it was best to remove the penalty structures from tier 2. Enhancement of our conservation program and outreach. Staff has already started this by placing several flyers within the utility bills. We're going to try to make it more frequent throughout the year of including more conservation information for them. And also, one of the recommendations is to make sure that that is translated into Spanish as well, so that way our Spanish-speaking community can receive that as well. One of the other enhancements that was recommended was going door-to-door on our multifamily users. One example is the mobile home park. They have one person who pays the bill, so they only get one flyer. So recommendation was probably going door-to-door, handing those flyers out to everyone within that community as well, just so they're aware of where we stand within that drought and what conservation efforts we're asking of them as a community as well.
Good.
Mayor Infante and I worked together. He provided a water usage calculator, which I have not yet posted. I'm working on trying to get that so it can be posted on the internet, but it is finalized. And it's a great tool for the community and use consumers to go on, put in how many family members they have within their house, how many times they use their utilities, and it will give you some consumption on your indoor usage. And it can kind of shed light on, if you have 4 members and your indoor calculation consumption says 15 or 10 units, and your bill's coming in at 28 units, you can kind of see I'm using 75% of my usage on outdoor. So you can work on cutting back measures there. The also recommendation was adopting a resolution, bringing back to council a resolution to place us back into stage 1 of our drought policy. On Friday, the 24th, the governor actually put out an executive order N-5-23, stepping us back and not requiring communities to enter into their stage 2 of their drought policies. That would take us back into stage 1 of the policy. And there are still some measures that would have to stay in play. There's a voluntary reduction of 15%. That's not a required reduction, but it is voluntary. And there are other outdoor usage of water consumption and other usages that are not permitted, such as washing hard surfaces outdoor, washing your cars outdoor, and such. The recommendation by the ad hoc committee are proposed for discussion by the council, and staff is here to receive recommendations and direction from council. I also want to turn it over to our 2 ad hoc committee members that sit on the council so that they can provide their input and their recommendations.
Question first, go ahead. Maybe we answer it.
One question. Every homeowner in Solvang pays for a meter rate in their water, correct?
Yes.
And you mentioned Ranch San Ynez Mobile Estates. Out of 162 units, they have 1 meter, right?
That's my understanding, that they have one bill that they
1
receive.
meter for 162 units, and then they all pay their individual water.
They pay to the homeowner or the owner of that property somehow, yes.
Not a bad deal. Thank you.
Yes. One thing I did want to mention, and I'm sorry, I want to mention is current trends in water consumption starting in January of this year, based off of January and February, are showing a downward trend. This January, compared to last January, there's a 32% reduction, and in February this year versus last year, there's a 17% reduction.
Because we're bathing in all the water that's flooded our homes, so.
Well, that's one reason, but also towards the end of last year, they were showing reduction as well. So the citizens have responded, and we appreciate that.
That's true. Thank
If
you.
I can also comment on, we have been getting a lot of rain. Our reservoirs are filling throughout the state. We're getting our allotment up to 75% from the original 0% we were going to receive at the beginning of the year. But I also want to remind that, we rely on groundwater heavily here. And this surface water does not necessarily replenish our groundwater at a fast enough rate. We are showing increases in our groundwater, but we also are participants in the EMA, which is the Eastern Management Area, and we receive reports there that we are increasing our groundwater levels, but we're still below some of the levels that are required to meet our plans there.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
Yeah, my understanding is that it would take several years of plentiful rain to get the groundwater back to levels that we are comfortable with.
Ms. Arona can ask that. She sat on the same committee, so I know she's ready to.
It's hard to predict, right? You can't,
Yeah.
it's impossible to predict the variable, how long it would take to fully replenish and what kind of rain precipitation we would actually get. The huge volume and the fast, storm flow doesn't necessarily help us. The slow and steady rain might be, in fact, faster for replenishment. So I genuinely think there's some science around it, but so many conditions that would influence it. Anything else, Jose?
No, thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to also add to your comments because there was a lot of work done, and Jose really, and Brad, led this subcommittee, I think, to being maximum impact and most productive. The one other item that I want to call out was the idea that, and I know it came up from the community comments, is that we are encouraging ADUs and not changing what we might see as incentives to or prohibitors for ADUs. So we're not adding any metering requirements or metering costs for that approach. And I also want to add that we collectively poured through a lot of the detailed data on how the community at large, the businesses, the landscape and irrigation sectors or subsections of water consumption were actually responding very positively to the city's request to reduce consumption. So the 20% targets were actually being met, even though out of the gate in August and September, the penalties were pretty painful. But over time, it really looks like the community's responding, and that's why we've come back and said, let's focus on incentives rather than penalties and continue to get the positive response. I will call out that there was one group that didn't show the like-minded consumption approach, and that was multifamily residencies, and we've got some strategies to see some different adjustments there. The incentive programs, I think, are well thought out. We'll roll them out, and the communication of those programs, including recommitting to the landscape incentive program if you move more towards water conservatory landscaping, and other tools and devices that you can use in-home to reduce and conserve your water usage. And please go take a look at the water conservation tool that Mayor Infante spearheaded, because I think it is a good indicator. It's benchmarked across other industry numbers that we can all continue to do better. It's important for us to contribute to our new targets.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth and Jose and Brad for spearheading this and making it worthwhile. What we're trying to come across is that the draconian penalties are not going to be there any longer as we move out of stage 2. We're still in the process of having a policy that is across the board for stage 2, stage 3, or stage 4. And that's still being worked on, but the urgency wasn't there to complete that at this juncture. So, but yeah, Mayor Fonte's model was enlightening and helps the community make the plan for their existing water use and cost, for that matter. So, and I don't see where, the incentives are to save water, and there are funds available to residents and businesses to implement those water savings, and those remain. So, and those can be found on our website as well as other tools. But thank you for getting out the educational programs for both English and Spanish to our metered users. Thank you.
Anything else? I have one quick comment. I know that when we were in the middle of the drought and the penalties were coming out, we were looking at, excuse me, saying that an average family should be about 1,400 cubic feet a month. And we had a couple of users over 100 cubic feet a month. Can you tell me in the last 2 months with all this rain, how many are over 100 now?
I don't have that data. I can't give that to you, but I would say it's significantly less.
Okay. Is it concerns? My concern is there's people that that have homes here that they come to in the summer and they don't care about it the rest of the time. They leave the water on all the time, and they're not doing anything to conserve. So if we've got a number of people that their sprinklers are running even in this heavy rain, we need to get in touch with them so when we get back into a dry period that they're being more responsive. That's my concern.
And that's something that we could do. We can work with the utility billing and see if there are any of those customers that sit out there. Reach out to them.
Yeah, because if they're still cranking out 100 units a month and it's been raining like this, we were just at the GSA meeting and we're hearing about all the ag people are not pumping right now because they don't need to. They got all this rain. So without pumping water out of the wells and the rain coming into the aquifers, we're coming back up and we're doing better. 2-3 years of this, we might get back to normal. We might. Okay. Public comment. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm coming up, and I'm actually impressed with you guys actually taking time out and really checking something without just pulling it out of your hat. I appreciate that, Dave. I appreciate that, Mark. I appreciate that, Elizabeth. I am one who my biggest water bill, I guess, was my landscaping. My water bill went down, I think, $300. So I know now that my green grass costs a lot of green money. So I know when I need to conserve, I have to cut the sprinklers off. And I am a watch dog for I'm in Skid Mesa. So for our landscaping, years previous, it would rain once every 6 months, but our landscapers wouldn't turn our water off, and I would have a fit. So, Mr. Infante, when you talk about the 100, and I think we use that too, you may be talking about something that your city is responsible for. So you may want to check before you throw it out there. But this year, I have noticed that. I guess because of Jose, we didn't have sprinklers going and it raining at the same time, so I didn't have to call in and complain. So I did want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate this. I mean, wow, one of these days I'm gonna be able to stay home and watch TV. Thank you.
Feels good, Denise.
That's funny.
Finally.
I like that. Okay. All right, last. Oh, there's another comment? My apologies. Sir, please. I wasn't paying attention.
I'm Frank Smithson, live here. Wanted to make a comment. I got a statement in one of my rental houses that I got to put a backflow valve in. I have a pool. And I have one in my home, and I have a backflow valve already on it. Evidently, the house I bought, the rental, didn't have a backflow valve on it. I noticed one of your all's water trucks guy, I believe his name was Mike, am I right, Jose?
Yes.
Mike
Down
Matthews.
the street. And I said, hey, what's this all about? He goes, where's the house at? I said, it's over on Manzanita. He goes, come on, I'll go look at it with you. So he followed me over, and he looked at it, and goes, yeah, you need one, the backflow. But he went out of his way, and mainly just want to commend him for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear.
So what was your name again? What was your name again? And you're on Manzanita?
That's where one of the
Okay, thank you.
Don't forget to give us a good Yelp review.
Oh, I never thought about that.
We have terrific employees in this city, and we love hearing those comments like that. And of course, Mike is in my book, just top of the list. He's tremendous.
Cool.
All right. If there's no other public comment, we'll bring it back to the council for final comments. I believe at this point, it's nothing more than accepting this, or was there anything to approve?
We need a direction to give staff to bring back a resolution placing the city back into stage 1 of the drought policy, to work on modification of the ordinance and bring that language back to council at a future date for consideration and adoption as well. And I think those are the only 2 things that require action right now.
Well, also move that motion, as you just articulated. I'm not going to repeat it.
Makes sense. I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Claudia Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jose. All right, next is item 6B. If you'd read that into the record, please, Ms. Clerk.
Discussion and possible action to adopt resolution 23-1211, adopting the SYVT Zero Emission Vehicle Transition Plan.
Staff report?
Thank you. So this item is to review the five-year transit development plan, which includes the zero emission vehicle transition plan. We have a staff presentation that will be given by our consultant, and I'll hand that off in just a minute. But the recommended actions is to receive the presentation and comment on the transit management plan that's been included as part of your packet, and then also maybe comment on staff's presentation, and then approve resolution to approve the zero emission vehicle transition plan, which was basically a value-added element to the transition plan. It's something that we needed to do anyways, and we added it to this, and so we don't have to bring a separate item. So we included it with this with the transit management plan. And with that, I will hand off to Kathy Chambers with Moore & Associates, who will give the presentation of the transit development plan.
Thank you. Yeah, put the computer down there for her, you know.
He's got it up. I have to. Okay. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Kathy Chambers. As he noted, I'm with Moore & Associates, and we did prepare the transit development plan for San Ynez Valley Transit. And so today I'd like to give you an overview of the planning process, as well as the results of that plan, and then talk a little bit about the zero emission vehicle transition plan. As you are likely aware, transit service in the San Ynez Valley is a partnership between the cities of Solvang and Buellton and the county of Santa Barbara. While Solvang is the administrating entity, each partner makes an equal contribution, and the program is funded using a combination of local, state, and federal funds. The current SYVT program operates two modes, fixed route and dial-a-ride. The fixed route service offers two routes, Express and the Los Olivos Loop, and operates Monday through Saturday. From Monday through Saturday, the dial-a-ride is eligibility-based, and you must be a senior or someone with a disability to use it. On Sunday, the dial-a-ride is open to the general public. Our operating hours Monday through Saturday, 6:30 a.m. to 7, and on Sunday, the dial-a-ride only is from 8:30 to 4, with a break between 12:30 and 1. As you can see, our ridership took a pretty big hit as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. There were a few months at the beginning of the pandemic when we suspended fixed route service and only provided general public dial-a-ride service due to a lack of drivers. The fixed route service has now largely returned to pre-pandemic levels, though the dial-a-ride ridership does remain low. Fare revenues are also bouncing back, though not quite as quickly. This is likely due in part because of fewer dial-a-ride fares, which are more expensive than the fixed route fares. Operating costs have increased year over year. This is primarily due to increases in the operations contract. Not only do operating contracts typically include an annual increase in their rates, but many contracts also increased as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic in light of a national driver shortage. Fiscal year 21-22 was an option year under our prior contract with our operations contractor, which is why there was a more significant increase that year. SYVT is operated under contract to RATP Dev. They previously operated as Roadrunner Management Services and were acquired by RATP Dev, and they've held the contract since 2016. The current contract has a base term of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2027. SYVT's last short-range transit plan was prepared in 2017. Short-range plans are typically prepared every 5 years. Obviously, some things have changed since a prior report was prepared. So the purpose of this Transit Development Plan, or TDP, is to create a blueprint for the development of the transit program over the next 5 years. We looked at the impact of the pandemic, both on the performance of the service and how it affected riders, and identified practical and sustainable recommendations moving forward. Benefits of the TDP include maintaining eligibility for funding, ensuring compliance, and identifying opportunities that are cost-effective as well as meet the community's needs. This year's TDP also includes a zero-emission vehicle transition plan, which is required by the California Air Resources Board for all transit providers. We conducted a number of community engagement activities in support of this project, and we used a mix of in-person and contactless methods. And by contactless, I mean postcard mailers, online access to a project website, and survey, and an online workshop. We also reached out to some community organizations, since many of them represent groups rather than individuals, and can provide a different level of input. So coming into this project, we saw 3 potential outcomes with respect to how the service is delivered. This is very similar to the approach taken in the last SRTP, and it's done in an effort to ensure that the service delivery method we recommend is both sustainable and meets the needs of the community. So the first option was to maintain the status quo, which is the fixed route and dial-a-ride service that you see now. The second was to transition to a general public on-demand service. You may have heard it referred to as microtransit, that would use SYVT vehicles and the RATP DEV drivers. Then the third option was to transition the service to an outside on-demand provider, such as taxis or Uber, and then subsidize the fare. So what we found is that there is a strong community preference for the current service delivery mode. With the other options, there's concern about continued eligibility for funding, the availability of potential providers, and as well as eroding the long-time investment in public transit in the Santa Ynez Valley. Alongside the recommendation to retain the status quo, we developed a number of recommendations to make improvements to the service. These include making the trial discounted student fare a permanent part of the fare schedule, adding the Avenue of the Flags Park and Ride as an on-call stop to enhance connectivity with the Clean Air Express, which serves Santa Barbara, relaunching marketing efforts that were put on hold during the pandemic, extending the express route to the new Buellton Library location, and addressing a couple of safety concerns through a modest route change and relocating one bus stop further away from an intersection. Other recommendations were to work with the Chumash tribe to consider making the casino and tribal clinic regular stops instead of on-call stops, expanding marketing activities to include regular outreach to the senior centers as well as customer appreciation activities, transitioning to zero-emission vehicles, and introducing contactless mobile payment. So this is where you can purchase your fares through an app and use your phone to pay your fare as you board the bus. The last 2 recommendations are a little more in-depth and long-term. The first is a 12-month microtransit pilot program, which could provide better connectivity with regional service, especially early in the morning, as well as potentially provide a connection between areas such as Fjord Drive and the fixed route service. So we're talking areas that are not along 246 in Solvang to get them into that connections with that express route. The other is a recommendation that was approved as part of the prior SRTP, but was never actually implemented, and that's a hotel pass-through fee, some or all of which could be used as a dedicated funding source for transit. So we recommended exploring that as an additional funding option over the next few years. Finally, you have a resolution as part of this item to adopt SYVT's zero-emission vehicle transition plan. The California Air Resources Board, as part of its innovative clean transit legislation, is requiring all transit providers to begin transitioning to zero-emission vehicles in 2026 with a goal of full transition by 2040. The ICT legislation also requires all transit operators to prepare a transition plan by June 30th, 2023, that details a timeline for meeting the required deadlines. Beginning in 2026, 1/4 of all new vehicles purchased must be zero emission, and beginning in 2029, all new vehicles purchased must be zero emission. The city has selected battery electric as a power option for its zero emission vehicles, and Public Works is already working on developing charging infrastructure that will ultimately be used for the transit vehicles. The city's also already received partial funding for SYVT's first electric bus. The zero-emission vehicle transition plan details a timeline for transition to a zero-emission fleet. identifies vehicle requirements as well as what charging infrastructure will be needed, and identifies workforce training requirements. The plan anticipates SYVT will meet the goal of a fully zero-emission fleet by 2031, well ahead of the 2040 deadline. It also identifies potential funding sources for vehicle and infrastructure. And I'd also like to add that this ZEV transition plan is a dynamic document because we fully expect that circumstances are going to change somehow over the next 17 years between now and the time full compliance is required, depending on, the availability of vehicles, how quickly we can get them in. And so it is a dynamic plan that will kind of evolve as time goes on. But this will meet the requirements of CARB as well as the FTA in case we want to look for federal funding for any of the vehicles. So that's the end of my presentation, and we'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions?
I have a question about when you guys did the general engagement. Was there a particular sense for a need that the public wasn't getting met from our transit?
Well, I think not anything in specifically that we didn't address in the plan. There's always calls for more service, whether it's more frequently or into a different area. The geography of the San Ynez Valley is such that we are limited in how we can serve some of these areas. There's very few ways to get through Solvang. You kind of have to go straight through. So we did look at a lot of these things, and we have to balance that with the funding. How much money is available, and while we would. If you've looked in the report, we played with a lot of ideas about how to really expand service, and some of the ideas would require additional vehicles and a lot more money, and we just don't have the funding to do that. And so that's certainly something we considered, but we have to find that balance. And we feel that keeping the status quo at this point really does help find that balance, but adding in some of these additional improvements helps accomplish some of these other things that we wanted to get in there.
Thank you.
Your point of pay app that you have for non-cash transactions, and how will that app work? If you can explain to us that.
So one of the ones we've looked at that we have not yet implemented is called Token Transit. And what it does is it allows someone to go to the Token Transit website and pay through a credit card. And then when they get on the bus, all they have to do is show their fare media to the driver. So they can pay with a credit card or debit card. They don't have to have any cash. They don't have to touch anything when they get on the bus. They just have to show that they have a valid fare media. There are some other options out there which kind of get rid of the third party, and so they don't have to pay somebody to buy a pass. They simply put in their credit card and pay their fare. So those are several things that we're going to be looking at as part of the implementation of the contactless fare. But right now, the one of the most popular is Token Transit. It's been used successfully throughout the country.
And does that app also have the schedules of the bus, so the GPS locations of when the next one will arrive?
That app does not, but for the last year or so, we have, and this wasn't part of the TDP, but this is part of other work we've been doing with SYVT. SYVT has been testing out a demo for, it's called Real-Time GTFS. So if you go on Google Transit, you can see where the bus actually is rather than just where it's supposed to be.
Oh, that's cool.
And so we're still working out some of the bugs on that, and so it's live, but we haven't done a lot to promote it yet. And so once we get everything squared away, I anticipate us recommending a marketing campaign that will really teach people how to use it. And right now, it should be live on both Apple and Google.
Okay. Another question. Pardon my naivete here, but the city owns the buses, but contracts the management and the driving to the other
That's correct.
organization.
That's correct.
Okay. And how's that relationship worked thus far? I mean, is there any concerns?
I think it's worked pretty well.
In as much as you don't own the buses, that's the biggest capital expenditure.
Right.
Are the buses themselves.
Mhm.
And you're asking about ways to finance that with grants and things of that nature for the new fleets that are required?
Yes. Zero-emission buses tend to be a lot more expensive than conventionally fueled buses. A conventionally fueled bus usually runs about between $90,000 to $100,000. A zero-emission zero-emission bus, an electric bus that's the same type that we use, is between $250,000 and $300,000. So right now, the city has received funding through LCTOP, which is the Low Carbon Transportation Options Program that's from the state, and has received the funding for about half of the first bus. So,
Which half are you going to deliver?
I know, right? The one with the wheels.
Because the buses that we have, what is the capacity?
I believe it's 16 seated or 14 with 2 wheelchairs.
And do those buses have bicycle racks for those riders that want to combine?
I believe they do, yes. Yeah.
They do? Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The graph that you showed, and thank you for your presentation, the graph that you showed, the ridership total, is that total rides or that many people are served by the bus?
Those are total rides.
Rides,
So every
so-
every time somebody boards the bus, we count them.
Okay, so it could be 60 people taking 4,000 rides.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine,
And,
thanks.
Yeah, and that is, I know it's appealing to want to know how many people do we have riding the bus,
Yeah,
but that's a very hard number to come up with.
understood.
But what it does tell us is we have a lot of people in the San Ynez Valley that ride multiple times a day and multiple times per week.
Got it.
And so we have a lot of people that really depend on the service.
And the goal is in 6.5 years to have all these buses electric, and we can't keep the lights on now. So we're pretty confident we can actually achieve that.
That's why it's a dynamic plan.
It's a dynamic plan.
Yes.
But nothing
So
is
a lot of
concrete.
it will depend
We're
on-
hoping that we
We're
can have
hope-
everything, just like 3 Energy, 3 CE, we're hoping we can have renewable energy by 2030.
Exactly. And that is one of the reasons it's a dynamic plan. So, because even if we're able to get vehicles, we've still got to work with the electric company and make sure they can get the.
But I like the phrase. I like the phrase. I'm going to use that. It's our dynamic plan. No, and I appreciate what you do. Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
And you want to add something?
I also wanted to find out, I really felt that your sample size was terribly small to make these kind of decisions. You had 29 surveys that were filled out for this size of budget. It's just, in my opinion, I'm not sure the sample size is, I don't know what the error rate would be for that size sample. And then I saw that some of your questions were, how should I say, because I read the surveys and so forth, and they were they countered one another, the questions themselves. And I'll give you an example. In the last 90 days, have you ridden a bus in the San Ynez Valley? And then on a further down, and that was, let me give you the responses on that, of which 86% said no. In the last 90 days, they haven't ridden a bus. Then you have another question that says, I'm sorry, I'm only so fast here. I scroll through all these questions. Here we are. In a typical week, how many days do you ride the SYTV bus? More than once a week was 17%. And of all those people, 5 to 6 times per week, it was well over, I'm going to just add this up real quick, well over 65% told me that they ride more than once a week. But that same population said that they haven't ridden again in the last 90 days. I'm perplexed as to why we got those two different.
Well, what we did on some
what
of
am
the
I
questions is we had some called skip logic. So if you said no, then you didn't answer the questions that pertain to your riding habits.
Okay.
And so that is one of the reasons you see the questions that appear to counter each other. Because those who said they do ride, we want to find this information.
Okay, let's use that example. And it said that of the valid respondents, there was 4.
Right.
Okay, that said that they rode the bus in the last 90 days. I'm just sorry, that sample size just really bothers me. It really does. I don't know about the rest of it.
4?
I will tell you that I heard a presentation through the SBCAG, the TTAC committee, about the Santa Maria Transit, who has opened up, they've got a new manager in there who's apparently done some spectacular work, has increased performances, decreased the number of people who are required to run the process, done a lot of work, said a lot about SV Transit, and it sounded very good. That survey, that kind of information bothers me a little bit as well. But I'm hearing other input that suggests that it's doing well, and it's meeting the need for the most part. My question comes from your comment about microtransit. So I assume that's something like a van that picks up at one spot and takes it over to a bus stop?
That's one way to do it. I mean, what microtransit often refers to is primarily on-demand service. And what that actually looks like, in some places it is pick you up at your door and take you to the door of the place you want to go. In some places it looks like pick you up at a common location in the area you're starting from and takes you to a bus stop where you can access the fixed route. And so that second one is kind of what we're looking for here. We don't want to necessarily open up something that will take you anywhere in the valley, because that kind of negates the purpose of having a fixed route service. But if we can get some of the folks that are living in, further off the main route to that route, that gives them access to.
Well, what crossed my mind was, for instance, Saturday. A number of people that stay up there and might want to get onto the bus. A microtransit from there to a regular route might be advantageous. Or the other senior center over on Maple Street, or there's a couple of other places where that might be productive. I had not heard of this microtransit before. Kind of an interesting idea.
Well, I have a question, but Kathy, thank you. But what indicators do we have that some of the either enhancements to the service, like microtransit or a hotel pass-through or additional marketing, this new app that's coming, or even maybe further discounting and incentivizing students to ride, but what indicators do we have that those things we're going to do next will increase the ridership?
We have had let me start with the marketing. SYVT has an existing marketing program. A lot of the activities were put on hold, but because of the pandemic, and we want to get those restarted. Getting the word out about transit is a very important part of continuing to recruit new riders. We want to make sure people know about it. And that's why a marketing program it's not just going to be, here's some social media or here's an ad in this publication. It's participation in community activities. It's doing outreach with seniors, doing outreach to customers to make sure they feel valued. It's all of those things, and we want to. it's just a matter of getting the word out, because you wouldn't, there's a lot of people in the community that they don't really know much about SYVT. They may have seen the buses, but they don't know what it is. And then ridership is one of our biggest metrics. We look at how many riders we have. The service really has come back pretty well since the pandemic with the fixed route, and that's really the biggest measure. The thing about dial-a-ride service, yes, the ridership has decreased on that, but it costs money every time we go do a dial-a-ride pickup because it is a demand response service. So what we're really looking at is how is that fixed route doing? And we are back up to where we were before the pandemic, and that's pretty notable. There are a lot of transit services in California and throughout the country that are still operating at 75%, 80% of where they were. Their riders aren't coming back. And because all of the riders here are traveling locally, we don't have the same impact of people who are working from home that no longer commute to work as other places see.
I was looking at your map of your route. And does that get adjusted periodically based on new stores, new hotels, things of that nature?
Not generally, unless we hear that there is a major trip generator that we need to serve. What things we've heard about this time are the relocation of the library in Buellton. It is to a place that's currently not being served, and it is a fairly minor modification of a route to go out and serve it at the Valley Dairy area of Buellton. So we do look for things like that. We obviously can't respond to every request for service, but if there is a significant development that needs service, we definitely want to look at that. And that doesn't have to be at the time we do a TDP. You know, if new plans are out there that we need to make sure we serve, we want to hear about that at any point.
You adjust the demand?
To some degree.
Or will? Okay.
Yes. When we see that there is a sufficient demand, we take a look at that.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Nope.
One last question, sorry. Kathy, who does Moore and Associates do the marketing and the outreach and determine how you target, who you target, and what you're delivering them to push the,
we do.
Increase the ridership? You do it.
We
Okay.
do.
Thank you.
At this time, anybody in the public would like to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Jim Moore with Moore and Associates. Happy to have my colleague Kathy Chambers here. If you don't mind, Mayor, I'd like to be able to respond to a question that Councilmember Rona raised. Yes, the report or the overview that Kathy provided tonight focused on one element of the public engagement, and that was the survey. But I think I sense your question was, how do you justify, or where did you hear some of these other ideas or requests for service or marketing and things of that nature? And assuming I heard you correctly, there were many other elements, public engagement activities. There were discussions with, I think, 60 community stakeholder organizations that represent seniors and veterans and low income and the disabled community. There were discussions with, there were roundtables and general public workshops. There were comments that were received online from the project webpage. So yes, while we focused on reporting the results of a onboard survey that had a very modest sample, a sample so small that it really frankly has very little statistical validity, I will admit that. But what it did do is, for the people that were riding during the period that the survey was being conducted, it was a very high penetration of those people who were riding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Nope. Anybody? Nobody else wants to make a comment? We'll bring it back to the council. We need to approve this, I believe.
Yes, you need to approve adopting the resolution.
Yeah, we're looking for the approval of the resolution for adopting the zero-emission transition policy, zero-emission vehicle transition policy.
Can I have a motion, please?
A motion to approve the zero emission policy.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
No.
Councilmember Claudia Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. All right, let's move on then to agenda item 6C. If you'd introduce that to us, please.
Discussion and possible action to adopt Resolution 23-1209, approving the annual investment policy for the fiscal year 2022-23.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. Tonight, we're looking at adopting the investment policy for the fiscal year 22-23. The California Government Code Section 53646 states that the treasurer or chief fiscal financial officer of the local agency may annually render to the legislative body that the local agency and any oversight committee of that local agency a statement of investment policy. A change in the policy shall also be considered by adoption by the city council. The city's auditors and the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, who's the organization that we apply for our financial award every year, also recommends that we adopt an investment policy annually. The purpose of the investment policy is to provide guidelines for ensuring prudent money management, providing for daily cash flow requirements, and meeting the objectives of the policy. The city's goals include the enhancement of economic status and the protection of cash investments. The city criteria selecting investments are safety, liquidity, and yield. The city has invested in certificate of deposit CDs from 2018 to 2021 with staggered terms. Currently, the Montecito Bank and Trust account is approximately earning 1.78% in interest, and in LIF, the interest rate is approximately 2%. If the investment policy is approved tonight, staff will begin looking at investing in CDs once again. The city's investment policy was last reviewed in 2021. The attached investment policy has been modified to become compliant with the California Municipal Treasury Investment Policy Certification Program. And if it's adopted, staff would like to apply to have the policy certified with the California Municipal Treasury Investment Program, and the cost of that membership and certification is $270. The City Council can make changes to the policy if they feel fit, and approving the investment policy does not have significant financial impact. The policy promotes the city's objectives to safeguard the principal, remain liquid, and strive for maximum investment returns. The amount invested in various investment securities is dependent on the cash flow needs of the city, and the market dictates the earnings of the majority of the city's portfolio. If directed, staff will apply for the certification by the California Municipal Treasurers Association, which will cost $270. Any questions? That's the end of my report.
Questions?
You mentioned that you're, right now, we're getting 1.78 Montecito Bank and Trust, which seems okay up until recently with the interest rates rising. And so you're obviously tracking CD rates. And are we looking at long-term or short-term CD rates?
We would do both.
Do both?
You can, according to the policy, you can have up to 5 years.
Okay.
But with,
In a volatile market, though, you would kind of like keep an eye out and not just dump things into 3-year CDs or, et cetera?
Right,
Okay,
yes,
so
yeah.
there's somebody on top of that.
Yes.
And ESG doesn't play any role in this, right?
ESU?
ESG,
OESG?
yeah. Has nothing to do with this,
No.
right? Okay, thank you. That's my only two questions.
Okay,
Nobody's paying a lot of money for money right now, but it's going up.
Right.
And I'm happy to see at least more than 1% coming back to investors on
Yes.
certain items. Thank you.
And I'm happy to see us doing this, proactively doing the actual investment, so that's good. And I
yes.
am watching, so I think the longer-term CDs are inching towards 5% if we
Yeah.
move in that direction.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask for clarification, because one of the policy attributes is a monthly reporting of performance.
Yes.
Have we not seen it because we're just getting going, or where
Well,
would we see that?
We currently bring the investment, city's financial status quarterly, but this will be a monthly and a quarterly reporting as well.
Perfect. And have we predetermined, perhaps I missed it, on the percentage between the LAIF and the, bank-offered CDs? How we're making that distribution? How much we're putting into the LAIF options versus bank CDs?
It would, with the CDs, because they're held to term, if you pull them out earlier, it would all be based on the financial status of the city and what capital projects we have available that we're doing to determine if we go, a 6-month CD, a 12-month CD, 18 months, 3-year, up to a 5-year. It all kind of depends on where we are financially. Does that answer your question?
If I remember correctly, isn't money pulled out of the LAIF account with no penalty? So we can
Yes.
pull it out at any time we want, and just the
Yes.
remainder of it. But with a CD, you can't do that?
Correct.
Yeah, I think the cash flow needs statement in there, we're going to
That's
evaluate what the
part
cash
of it.
flow needs would be over the duration of those CDs.
Right.
So if we put like the majority of our money in a 3-year, 5-year CD in 2 years, if, let's say, TOT dropped and sales tax dropped and we needed that money, we would be penalized
For
from
taking-
pulling it out of the CD early.
Hence the multiple short-term overlapping
Right.
CDs and
Yeah,
things of that nature.
it helps make the portfolio more diversified, so you can manage the money better.
I have a question.
Please.
When you speak in a diversification, are any of these investments in light of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, are any of these not covered by FDIC?
If they're not covered by FDIC, we have to have 100%, 110% collateralization, which means that the company that we are investing with, they have to have 110% of our money. So they have to have, if we have $1,000, they have to have 110% of that $1,000 in order for us to invest with them. Just like with Montecito Bank and Trust.
Oh, yeah.
With all our money, they have 110% collateralization, and that's required by the government code.
Is that per account or per institution? How's that?
Per institution.
Okay.
So we can't
I
go.
guess my bottom line, are you hedging against that possible event?
Yeah.
Well, if I could add, what is the use in even having an FDIC if the federal government is going to bail out a bank that goes belly up?
They don't have to, so I just want to go with what they have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we either have to go with FDIC insured or the 110% collateralization. And
We have that security.
yes.
No crypto?
Pardon?
No crypto?
No. That's too risky.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Public comment on this issue? Yes, ma'am.
Well, do we even have any money left? It's kind of a joke to try to get more interest rates on a little bit of money. But I think that our main goal here should be trying to keep the money in here versus trying to get a higher
interest rates on the money. Interest rates are low now, it's just going to be low until, interest rates come down. So I don't know if you guys have a financial planner in here or somebody who actually has a degree in CPA, or I don't know if you just get nominated to the city council and you become an accountant, but it appears that that's what it is. So I don't know if you guys, what do I have to do, or do you have some money manager that actually talk to you guys or give you guys classes about how to manage this money and not just treat it like your your own checking account and your own money in the bank. Maybe that's something that can be brought to a city council meeting for some training. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Okay. There's nobody left on Zoom. We'll bring it back to the council. Comments on this? Or a motion to approve the investment policy?
I'll make a motion to approve the investment policy.
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Claudia Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Infante.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Wendy.
right.
Thank you, Wendy.
That's everything we have, unless there are some AB 1, 2, 3, 4 reports. No?
No.
In that case,
Yeah. Sorry, I was caught off guard. I had to report out that I attended the SBCAG meeting and the Eastern Management GSA meeting this past week.
and as did I, and Mr. Brown was also at the GSA meeting. But there was no food, there was no cost associated with it. We were just there at the meetings. Anything else?
Nope.
It's been swell, gang. Session is now closed. Look at that, 8:47. How'd I do this time? Meeting's adjourned.